I never imagined that my life would fall apart so quickly. My wife, Caroline, an image of beauty and grace. He was leading a double life. Every Friday, I left our house, our life, to be with another woman. I discovered the truth through the cold, hard evidence of photographs and recordings, each of them a dagger in my heart. Betrayal became my new reality, and revenge is my only purpose. It wasn't over. I made sure that her lover's husband knew everything. This is not just my story, it's our nightmare. What the hell do you think you're doing? I yelled at the woman checking the meter. I'm giving him a ticket for excessive parking. He replied calmly, not even bothering, and looking up from his notebook. Are you waiting for the meter? Running out of time to be able to find me? I screamed again. No, but if I had time I could think about it. Todd Janney replied. He must be a sweetheart at home, I murmured. Look, Mr. Matt, she said, finally looking at me. I'm tired of your foul language and your bad behavior. I put up with it so far, but I've had enough. I'm going to report you to the police for harassment. Are you an idiot? I put up with it so far, but I've had enough. I'm going to report you to the police for harassment. Are you an idiot? I shouted. Go ahead, you'll probably find them at the donut shop. With that, I slammed open the door of my Ranch Robert and closed it tightly. I started the car and left. 1 kilometer further on, I realized that I needed gasoline. That was one of the reasons. The ones I had come to town for in the first place. I stopped at a Shell station and filled up the tank. When I left the station, I heard a siren. I looked in a mirror and I saw a police car with the lights on right behind me. I stopped at the first place I saw, furious, grabbing my wallet to pull out my driver's license. I looked in the glove compartment for my registration. I rolled down the window, getting ready for the officer. Good afternoon, Mr. Matt. Can I see your license and registration, please? He asked politely. You hand them to him without saying a word. But I was getting Irish inside. That woman had denounced me, and I was already thinking about how to get back at her. Mr. Matt, I heard you had a conversation with Miss Wallington a few minutes ago, said the officer. Yes, a what? I replied angrily. She says he was rude and threatening. You know that's against the law, right? He said, keeping his tone calm despite my attitude. That's silly. I insulted her because she deserved it. Don't threaten her, I said, making no effort. For hiding my anger. Mr. Matt, you can't mistreat public employees. It's illegal. They have protection against people like you. He said to a composite. Mirio officer, she was only hired because her husband is on the city council. She's not good at all, I replied. Is your goal to make everyone in this city angry? He asked, his patience running out. No, only to the people who deserve it. And she's one of them. I answered sharply. She's just doing her job. He replied, recovering his calm. The last time I was in the city, I didn't have a coin for the meter, so I went to get some change. When I got back, he was already giving me a ticket. And you wonder why I think it's useless? I screamed. Maybe people don't like you because of how you act. Have you thought about it? He asked. I don't care what people in this town think. Are you going to arrest me or are you going to give me a ticket? I asked, exasperated. Mr. Matt, I would like to send you to therapy, but I don't have enough evidence. For now, I suggest you stay out of trouble. If we receive any more complaints, he could face jail time. Do you understand? He said firmly. Yes, I understand. I mumbled as I started the car. I drove away slowly, making sure to follow all the traffic rules. The police car followed me for a few blocks before turning. Another perfect day in my perfect life. I wasn't always like this. He used to be a nice guy. He had a good job, a nice house in the suburbs, a lovely wife, 2 kids, and 2 cars. It was the perfect life. He worked in Toronto at Prim Exile, a company that manufactured electrical products. I was the product development manager. Our job was mainly to find new products, made by competitors, and create our own versions. We spent almost no money on original ideas, but we spent millions copying others. My name is Jeffrey Matt. My wife is or was Joyce Matt. We have 2 children. Rick is 28 years old, married, and has 3 children of his own. The last time I heard from him, I was in Europe working in the oil and gas industry. Kirsten is 24 years old. She is single, but she lives with a guy in a commune in British Columbia. I haven't talked to her in about a year. I am somewhat estranged from my children, but that's not what made me that way. All this happened 2 years and 4 months ago, on a quiet Sunday afternoon. A few years ago, my wife went back to work once our kids. They were old enough to take care of themselves. She wanted to do something else than just vacuuming and doing the laundry. It didn't matter to me. He brought extra money we could use for holidays, or maybe even for a cottage near the Georgian Bay. He was doing well in an insurance company and quickly rose to a middle management position. I was impressed by how quickly he ascended. One day, she came home and told me that her company would send her and 12 other women managers I still retire for a week. He said it was one of those self-help events with which big companies try to look good. I thought it was a waste of time, but I nodded and said the right words. She seemed excited, so I thought, why not? Let the company spend their money if it makes them look good. He left on Monday morning and was due to return on Sunday afternoon. She and two friends from work. They took his car to the north of Bari, a retreat or a resort was not sure. He left an emergency number, but I never needed it. That Sunday afternoon, I was in the basement, fixing an old toaster, when I heard the garage door open. I put my tools away, turned off the light, and went upstairs. When I got to the kitchen, Joyce wasn't there. Walking down the aisle, she came out of the back bedroom, even with the slippers on, which I never did inside the house. Hi, how was the retreat? I asked, getting closer to hug her. She held out her hands to stop me. I noticed that she looked pale. Joyce, what's the matter? You look terrible, I said. My worry is growing. Jeff, we need to talk. Let's go to the kitchen. I need a glass of water, he said in a serious voice, but avoiding looking into my eyes. Joyce, you're fine. What's the matter? I asked, feeling even more uncomfortable. A glass of water was poured, and sat down at the kitchen table, still without looking at me. I sat in front of her, waiting. Jeff, something happened to me this week. It is very important and has changed my life. It started slowly. Joyce, I started to say. Jeff, please let me finish. It's quite difficult to explain it to myself, and much less to you, she said, her voice low and nervous. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be good news. Jeff, I've realized that I need to change my life, to be happy and feel complete. I can't do that with the situation as it is now. I need a total cut of this. He paused and finally looked me in the eye. Jeff, I want a divorce. I need a divorce. I have to make a clean cut. What? My voice should have been higher than I wanted, because she shuddered. A divorce? Why? What reason could you have? I demanded. I don't think you understand, Jeff. It's not about what he did or didn't do. It's about me, of trying to be a more complete person. He explained, staring at me. What does that mean? Do you have a boyfriend or something? I asked with the go up. How can you think that? I've never cheated on you, and I never would. This is about my needs, he said, now sounding defensive. Your needs, repeated, my voice growing louder. And my needs? What about our 31 years of marriage? What about our children? Your needs are worth more than that. I knew you wouldn't understand, but it doesn't change anything. Jeff, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I'll pack my things and I'll leave. My lawyer will contact yours. I guess he's going to use Scott Olson, right? He asked almost calmly. So in that way, you're going to walk away and in a 31-year marriage. For no good reason. Are you taking pills, Joyce? Have you been drinking? You wouldn't understand, and I'm not wasting my time trying to explain it to you, he said coldly, dispatching me so easily. Well, you'd better explain, Joyce. If you think I'm going to just let you go, you're wrong, I said, now furious. You don't need to use that kind of language. Jeff reprimanded me. Tell me exactly what happened at that camp, I demanded. You're not leaving until you tell me the whole story. I refuse to talk about this with you when you are in this state. Talk to my lawyer, Claire Lapuant, he said firmly. Since when did you have your own lawyer, Joyce? You've been planning it, I shouted. That's none of your business. And no, I haven't been planning it, he replied. And just like that, our long conversation ended, leaving me stunned and shattered. This happened this week, she said more calmly. So is that it then? 31 years of marriage lost. Because a guy with weird pants. Did he give you a motivational talk? You must be out of your mind. No one with a shred of sense would believe this. What did you do there that made you want to throw away our marriage? I asked, try to remain calm, but firm. You wouldn't understand. He helped me find the real me. Showed me that I could be so much more. But I had to stop everything that was holding me back, he replied. I've never heard such nonsense in my life. but I knew I had to keep talking if I wanted to get to the bottom of this. And how exactly did he do it? Hypnosis? Pills? There had to be something that made this happen. I insisted. Joyce was quiet for a moment before finally admitting. We use a little hashish to find our inner self. Her voice was very soft, wonderful. He gives you pills, and suddenly everything is different. Tell me, Joyce, how many other women came back? And did they tell their husbands that they wanted to get divorced today? I don't know, he said quietly, still sounding defensive. That's not true. Women talk about everything. Don't lie to me, firm. Maybe one more finally admitted. Wow, that's not interesting. Why didn't the other 10 follow the same path? Joyce? Maybe the hash didn't alter their brains like it did with you. I said curtly, you don't need to talk like that. He waited for me. I knew what was going on. I believed in his ideas more than the others, he said. God, Joyce, I never thought you were so naive. But I guess I was wrong, I said, getting up to grab a beer from the fridge. I'm not naive. I'm smarter than any of the others. I understood what he was saying, and what that might mean to me, she said angrily. I just shook my head as I stood by the bar, looking at her. The beer tasted awful, so I left it. My mind was in chaos. I couldn't think straight. There's nothing I can say to save our marriage, I asked in a low voice. She looked up at me, the tears starting to fill her eyes. I'm sorry, Jeff. I've already made a decision. And that was it. I took my car keys and left the house without saying another word. The following months were the most difficult of my life, and they changed me to the angry, tough man I am now. Stopped worrying about what I was thinking or needing someone. I went to work, did my 8 hours, and came back to an empty house. I put the house up for sale the same week, when Joyce filed for divorce, and I sold her in 3 weeks. My lawyer, Scott and Olson, he told me to put the money in a separate account to protect my finances from Joyce. It was the usual divorce routine. Cancel credit cards, moving my stuff out of the security deposit, and securing my savings. When Scott found out who Joyce's lawyer was, he called me right away. Jeff, this woman is relentless. He will try to take everything you have from you. He has a terrible reputation from a male point of view. I can't handle this case. It will destroy me. I suggest you get Mark Mosevich to represent you. He could reduce the damage. He said, clearly worried. Good luck, Jeff. You'll need it. He was right. Claire Lapon came after me like I was a monster, that I had hurt Joyce every day of our marriage. Vicious Jamar wouldn't do justice to her approach to Mark and me. I thought about fighting the divorce, just to make things difficult for Joyce. But Mark talked me out of it, and I'm glad he did. We agreed on the agreement in writing, and I finally gave in. I'm sure Joyce got more than half, but I didn't have the stomach to fight despite my anger. I was left with a big legal bill, and my share of the house barely reached me. For a cheap condom in Guelph. The only smart move I made with Mark's advice was to insist that Joyce accept that the agreement was final, and it could not be modified later. She had a good job, and since there was no cause for divorce, at least I didn't have to pay child support. I hadn't seen Joyce since she left our house that Sunday. Life can be strange. Just before the divorce was finalized, I received a call from a large American company. Years ago, in my free time, I invented a small electrical device that detected small changes in temperature and activated other systems in response. It didn't seem like a big deal, but by heart, I can already see it myself. I did not use the company's resources or work on it during working hours, so I had no problem registering the patent in my name. After I got the patent, I forgot about it. She was not included in the divorce because the papers weren't in my safe deposit box. They were in a shoe box in my bedroom closet. I guess Joyce forgot about her, too. The American company. I had created a new gadget for something else. But when they tried to patent it, they found that my design got in the way. They called me to buy it, and I accepted, telling them to talk to my lawyer, Scotty Olson, to negotiate the deal. Scotty was excellent at negotiations. I was hoping to get at least $100,000, but Scotty had bigger plans. In the end, he got $5.5 million for me, paid for 10 years. Scotty took 10%, and the rest was mine. We decided not to sign anything until my divorce was finalized. My first day as a single man was assured. I didn't have to work again if I didn't want to. Feeling the way I felt, that was the best. I quit my job and returned to my apartment to think about my future. I thought about moving to the east. 2 months later, I sold my condo in Guelph with a small profit, and I drove to the coast or east in my new Range Rover. It took me more than a week because I wanted to see the country and take my time. I was still sad and angry, but more controlled. My marriage was over, and now it was just part of my past. I wasn't sure who or what was making me angry. Maybe Joyce, his boss, the Swami, Claire Lapuant, or the divorce laws of Ontario. Probably all of them. I had no real plan other than to get to the coast. I drove around Vancouver, but I found it just another city, full of people surrounded by beauty. The houses I liked were too expensive, or they were in crowded, personality-less neighborhoods. I wanted to be near the water, which meant it would be more expensive. So I took the ferry to Vancouver Island to continue my search. When I got to Courtenay and the Comox Valley, I knew I'd found my place. The Strait of Georgia on one side, and Mount Washington on the other. The area was developed, but not too crowded, and the sizes of the grounds. They were bigger than in Vancouver or Victoria. The hills offered great views of the strait, and the population was sparse. The place had everything I needed: a hospital, a shopping mall, and a liquor store. He was perfect. I stayed at a local motel, and the next day I visited a well-known office of international real estate. That decision would change my life in ways I never imagined. I was very dependent on the internet and needed a reliable connection. Also install a composting system for the disposal of waste, taking what was left over to the landfill when needed. During my first renovation, I improved the insulation and changed the windows. I also wanted a better heating system, so install a combination of solar hot water and a wood-burning fireplace to heat the house. For additional heat, I kept a couple of portable heaters. The stove and oven in the kitchen were running on propane, and I took care of the refills myself. The refrigerator, the freezer, and the microwave. They didn't use much energy, using my engineering skills, and Coalacasa as self-sufficient and energy efficient as possible. I didn't want to rely on external services. I considered installing a biodiesel generator, but they were not yet common, and I didn't want to experiment by improving the technology. Without realizing it, I had designed my life for solitude. Although I wouldn't admit it at the time, that was the inevitable outcome. After my meeting with the traffic officer and the policeman, I calmed down, I made myself a sandwich, and I had a beer for lunch. He had built a large terrace of cedar at the front of my house, offering an amazing view of the Gulf, the mountains of the continent, and the passing boats. That afternoon, I saw the ferry that was traveling from Paul River to Comox, and I saw some big lates, probably on the way to the Solation Sound. He had a pair of powerful binoculars, and he could usually identify the ships and their origin. The Alaska cruises were passing just before, or the afternoon to be at this time of the year. I finished my beer and leaned back in my comfy deck chair that I had bought the previous year. Closing my eyes, I let the warmth of the sun envelop me, knowing that soon the huge firs and cedars, they would block most of your light. Until then, I was relying on the sunscreen that I had put on a few minutes earlier, in the shade of the big umbrella in the center of the table. The heat made me sleepy, and before I knew it, I fell asleep. I woke up startled, needing a second to understand why I had suddenly woken up. My mind went over the sound of a twig breaking, and then I would recognize the low hum of a car approaching my private road. The main road was more than 100 meters, and because of the hill and the curve at the entrance, there could be no vehicle until I was already quite close to the house. A white compact car appeared, looking relatively new. I couldn't make out the driver through the tinted windows. I was about to get up when the driver's door opened. My ex-wife, Joyce, came out of it. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. I should have fallen back on Masilla, looking at the unbeliever. I didn't say a word or move a single finger as she slowly walked towards me. "Hi, Jeff," she said quietly. She looked nervous, and she had every reason to be. We hadn't talked or written since the divorce, and we had parted on bitter terms. I immediately wondered if I had discovered about the patent and had come to claim his share. If that was the case, I would get it when the pigs fly. "What do you want?" You asked peremptorily. "I see he's still the same old Jeff," he said without smiling. "Stop talking nonsense, Joyce. What do you want?" I repeated, Family Matters replied simply. He looked around looking for a place to sit, but I had the only chair on the terrace, and I wasn't willing to offer it to her. I wanted to keep the restless as long as possible. Can you give me a chair? He finally asked. I did not respond immediately, but to look at it computed den. I slowly got up and went into the house looking for another chair. I found one in the guest room, although I was ravenous. Grab a towel from the bathroom. I cleaned it up and went back to the terrace. I should have made her clean up herself. I was already being too generous. I unfolded the chair. I placed it in front of me and was returned to my seat. What family affair? I asked. Your kids want to know what happened to you. You disappeared and they haven't heard from you. I had to hire someone to find you. He said with a tone full of irritation. What do they want with me? Rick has his own life away, and Kirsten is in some commune in the Rocky Mountains. She's probably just like her mother. I replied with disdain. Rick is in Alberta and has been there for weeks. Kirsten left the commune and runs a daycare in Calgary. She doesn't take pills, and she never did. Unlike his mother, he replied. Do you hate them as much as you hate me? He asked. No, I don't sodium it. I thought you knew that turned against me. I was so lost that I didn't know you told them. But they seemed to think it was all my fault. So I decided to leave them alone, I replied. I never turned them against you. I was so angry that they couldn't talk to you. You scared Kirsten. She was afraid that you might do something violent. And drinking to her was so upset that she wouldn't let Rika talk to you. I wouldn't even let you see your grandchildren. That's how bad it was. Jeff, what's the pity? I don't need your approval. What does that naughty do? It's Cupid. What's the matter with you? Are you going to live the rest of your life carrying so much hate? You won't make it to 60 and you're still like that. It's going to devour you, I scream. I looked into her eyes and I thought I saw an autism of fear. Why did he care? I had thrown myself aside like an old shoe, and now he was worrying about me. What was going on here? Joyce, why do you care? You didn't care 2 years ago. Why do you care what happens to me now? I asked, bewildered. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he stood up. He walked around the terrace, and she looked out at the landscape, lost in her thoughts. He remained silent, letting her process what she needed to say. Finally, he turned to me, leaning on the railing. You have a beautiful house, Jeff. The view is wonderful. It must be amazing at night, he said with a small smile. At sunrise, I corrected her. Are you facing east? The sunrise is special. The sunset is behind the mountain, I said, pointing over my shoulder. Or how did you find this place? He asked, walking slowly towards the table. I kept searching until I found what I wanted. And then I bought it, I said simply. Where do you work? Do you work from home? He asked, placing both hands on the back of the terrace chair. I'm retired. I don't work anymore. I replied. Really? I'm surprised. I thought you might need it. I mean, how could you afford this? Finally, he asked what I had been thinking the whole time. He refers that one to you after your lawyer. Clar, finish with me? That's what you mean, Joyce. I answered sharply. I didn't realize how terrible it had been until it was already too late. I should have stopped her. I didn't want to ruin you. I just wanted what was mine. He said apologetically. Well, that might have been your intention, but Claire wanted to destroy me. I replied calmly, and he almost succeeded. I added, so how did you manage to buy this place? He asked again. It's none of your business. Spit. She seemed surprised, about to say something, but then he thought better of it, and he turned to the railing, turning his back on me. I watched her, still trying to figure out why I was there. I really had traveled 3,000 miles, just to tell me that my kids want to know about me. I had paid someone to locate me. I could have written a letter and avoided all this emotional mess. There was more to this than I let on, and I intended to find out exactly what it was. I admit it to you. This is getting worse, he said quietly. I knew the divorce was a mistake, and I tried to stop it. But Claire wouldn't let me. He told me he was just having doubts, and that the damage was already done. It was very forceful, and I guess I let him handle me. He said, yeah, I can see that. I replied coldly, if that supposed friend of yours. He managed to make you do what you did. I doubt it would be hard for Claire to push you in the direction she wanted. There was no comfort in my voice. Joy sat back down in the chair, and we were silent for a while. So here we are, I said finally. 2 lives completely shattered, beyond recognition. Is that what you call your great life? My voice was full of resignation. It doesn't have to be this way, Joy said almost sheepishly. What do you mean? Asked sharply. I mean, we could start over. We could try to put it back together. He said as if I was telling you to say the words out loud. Oh, come on, Joyce. Grow up, I said, shaking my head. You destroyed me. You couldn't have hurt me worse. Even if you had broken me into pieces. You left me with nothing, not even my self-respect. Now, he was shouting at her, his face probably red with rage. Do you think I hate you? That just proves that you still don't understand. I don't hate you, Joyce. I love you. I've always loved you, and it's my curse, which I probably always will. But you disarmed me and threw me away. It's not hate that you see. It's anger. I'm furious. I am angry with everyone, and with everything that put me in this place. Stripped of all hope. I'm angry because I knew you were making a mistake. I'm angry because you didn't want to listen to reasons. I'm angry because I knew you were making a mistake. I'm angry because you didn't want to listen to reasons. I'm angry because I couldn't convince you that I was wrong. I'm angry because I couldn't help that these terrible things would happen to us. I have explained it clearly enough. She was already crying with her face buried in her hands and the shoulders shaking. Finally let my emotions out, but I didn't feel any better. More than a confession is missing to repair the damage. I got up, went to the kitchen, and poured glasses of wine. I was pretty sure he was still drinking white wine, and I had an open bottle from dinner the night before. When I got back to the deck, Joyce was wiping her tears with a small handkerchief. Have you had lunch? Can I offer you something to eat? I asked in a low voice. She just nodded, accepting my offer, and was going back inside. I made a cheese plate with crackers, and I pulled out some pâté I'd saved from last week. He opened another bottle of white wine, and I left it in the fridge before taking the food out to the deck. Where are you staying tonight? I asked gently. I don't know, he admitted. I was thinking of finding a motel. I wasn't sure if you'd be home. I didn't even know if you'd talk to me. You can stay here, I said, shrugging my shoulders. I have a spare room, and you can be sure that there will be nothing strange. I forced a small, humorless smile. She nodded and gave a slight smile in return. Thank you. I'm tired, but I still want to talk. If I may, he said carefully. After we finished eating, I took the dishes inside and refilled our wine glasses. Then I asked Joyce if she wanted a tour of the property. We walked around while I explained how I had chosen where to live and why. He seemed to understand, and we had both calmed down after our heated argument. It felt strangely liberating to express my emotions, although it didn't solve anything. I meant it when I said I still loved her, but saying those words hurt and rekindled my anger. I told myself I wouldn't let that happen, but I wasn't sure I could keep that promise. I set up the grill on the deck, and it makes a couple of steaks. I haven't been eating much lately, which helped keep my weight down, along with regular exercise. Joyce noticed and mentioned that I looked healthy. Spending time outdoors had given me a permanent tan. What could have fooled people, making them think I was in shape? After dinner, we sat on the deck until the sun went down and the mosquitoes came. Joyce had brought her travel bag inside earlier, and I had left it in the spare room, with clean sheets and a fresh pillowcase. We shared a bottle of French red wine, and I offered him a brandy. We sat in two big chairs by the fireplace. In the last few hours, Joyce had opened up about her life after the divorce. It was clear that he had suffered. He could not undo his mistake and had fallen into depression. I had been seeing a psychiatrist for several months. What had helped him, but only in part. She quit her job and started working in a long-term care hospital. The salary was not good, but I had minimal needs, since I had no social life. Where her daughter, Kirsten, called her and told her about the opening from a child care center. Joyce thought it was the perfect opportunity. He moved to Calgary a year ago, in September, and started rebuilding. If the Swami had done something right, was to point out that he did not belong to the insurance business. She was meant to nurture, and working in childcare had been the right thing for her. His business prospered thanks to the shortage of workers and to a growing population. They even applied for a grant to expand its facility in the southwest of Calgary and build another one in Calgary's north central. The grant was approved, and a contractor was ready to start construction. I was surprised and impressed by how well they had done, especially since it seemed like a sudden career change. Joyce attributed it to Kirsten, saying she was the driving force behind the operation. It was Kirsten who suggested the expansion and securing the funds. I was even more surprised, since the last time I heard, She lived in a commune in the Cutinais. It just shows that you never really know your kids. Our son, Rick, was in Edmonton now. His wife, Beverly, he had grown tired of moving from one project to another in Eastern Europe, and I wanted to return to North America. When a position was opened at Interprovincial Pipelines, Rick took it. They settled in a nice house in the southwest of the city, and they had no plans to move again. Joyce wanted me to call them to let them know I was okay, but I told them I wasn't ready yet. I didn't care if I told them about our meeting, but I needed time to understand how to explain everything, to help them understand. I was curious to know what Joyce had told them about our breakup. Finally, he admitted the truth. The boy looked very young. He was thin and pale, and I figured he'd be maybe 16, if that. What followed was horrible, and I can't even describe it. I don't think I'll ever forget that image. Claire was standing with her hands on her hips, a little smile on his face. Then he took off the harness, and everything went dark. I always knew that Claire Lapuente was cruel, especially with men, particularly with married ones. But I didn't know she could be so bad. I wanted to get back at her before, but now it had become personal. It started as revenge for how he handled my divorce. But now it was about something much bigger. Terry, I can't believe these kids are doing this voluntarily. They must need money. They must be desperate like street children. I said after thinking for a moment. Yeah, I thought the same thing. But she calls on the phone. I don't understand how these kids could have phones. Unless she gives them to him, he replied. Nowadays you can get cheap phones and throw them away when you're done. Maybe that's what he's doing. I said as I sat in the corner of his desk, thoughtful. I needed a way to stop this woman, but I couldn't think of anything solid. How many of these videos do you have so far? Ask. 4. 3 girls and a boy. What do we do now? Nothing. I have friends in the police. I show them what I have, and they're going to take care of keeping an eye on her. They are trying to gather enough evidence for an arrest warrant and catch her in the act. I trust they will handle it well. Some other officers have also dealt with her. Can I have a copy of the DVD? I asked without being sure if I really wanted it. Of course. You paid for it. Just remember if someone asks. You received it by mail. No return address or note. Understood? Understood? I left Terry's office, my mind racing. For the first time in a long time, I felt that justice was about to come. 6 typed pages, 3 audio tapes, 10 photos, and an overcommon. They might as well have been parts of a bomb. I put everything in the envelope. I put in my briefcase. I took a sip of water. I put on my jacket and quietly left my office. I'll be out the rest of the day, Elizabeth. If it's urgent, call my cell phone. Maybe I won't answer, but leave a message. I said quietly to Elizabeth, the woman who managed my working life. Elizabeth looked at me and heard the tone of my voice. Are you all right, Mark? He asked. She was the only one who called me by my name. He knew me almost as well as my wife. Caroline. Maybe they won't be on Monday, Elizabeth. Yamari, I'll tell you what's going on. Take care, Mark, he said sincerely. I noticed that he did not wish me a good weekend. Your intuition probably told you that it wasn't going to be a good one. When I entered the cozy, via Bob sitting in the last reserved, there were others around, but the high backs gave us enough privacy. The noise level was moderate, so we wouldn't have to talk out loud. I slid into the seat and shook his hand. I was sure that my face looked gloomy, and Bob avoided light talk. The waitress came by, and we both ordered double whiskey. Yours with ice, mine with a glass of water on the side. We talked until the drinks arrived. I raised my glass to his, and he did the same. He looked at me waiting. Bob, I found out that Caroline is having an affair. Oh God, Mark, I'm so sorry. I would have never thought about it. She never seemed unhappy. His voice trailed off. No, I'm surprised too. I had no idea she was seeing someone. I replied, how did you find out? I asked. About 6 weeks ago, I got a call from a guy asking, and I knew what my wife was doing on Friday afternoons. I hung up after that and took it as a phone prank. The following Friday, we were having a dinner with his real estate friends, and I realized that I had forgotten to do something. I never called her on Fridays, because he always said he needed that day to prepare for the open houses. But this time I called his office. His assistant said he had left early, as I always did on Fridays around 1:30. That seemed strange to me. Call home. He did not answer. Then he would call back, and I asked his assistant where he was, only to have him tell me he never worked on Friday afternoons. It didn't make sense. And then I remembered that strange phone call. I started to feel like something else was going on. I paused and took a sip of my drink, hoping to calm my nerves. I had no luck. What did that mean? Bob asked. Where would I go? Bob hadn't said anything since I started talking. He was listening very carefully to my story. When she came home that afternoon, I asked him how his day had gone. He said he was fine, but that I hated being in the office when the weather was so beautiful. Bob felt an emptiness in his stomach when he said that. I knew he was lying. I struggled to stay on my feet. After that, I kept waiting and praying there was a good reason for everything. On Saturday, he left before 9 o'clock to go to work, leaving me alone. I had forgotten to buy flowers for dinner that night, so the florist would come out, and I stopped for a coffee on the way home. I couldn't stop thinking about where I could be and with whom. I remembered that Caro was engineered by a planner on his home office computer. When I got home, checked the previous Fridays. There were a lot of notes for the mornings and some lunch meetings, but nothing for the afternoons, except for a weird code. Some Fridays they had here. Other VKS seemed to alternate, but not always. Review from the beginning of the year. And almost every Friday they had one of those codes. I would be suspicious too. Mark said, Bob, what did you do to find out more? And I know something I never thought I'd do. Hire a private detective to find out what he was up to. Bob, I felt terrible about that decision. I bet you do. Anyway, what happened? Hire a young person from the firm who handles the legal work of our company. I made sure no one knew that he was working on a personal matter. This firm handles problems, like robberies and pills for us. I tell him about the information I just told you, plus a photo of Caroline, your car, the registration number, and his phone number. I also gave him permission to tap our phones, and if it was necessary, install audio and video equipment in the house. Everything is legal because it's our house, and I gave permission. It took him 2 weeks to give me an answer. Caroline was leaving the office before 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and he would go home or to another house. He discovered that another person. I was waiting for her at our house around 2:30, and he would stay for a couple of hours before he left. He followed that person to another house. At first, he didn't want to tell me more, but he told me that he had installed equipment in our house to monitor the living room, the master bedroom, the guest room, and his office. The phones were also set up to record the calls. I felt really bad. I didn't know how I was going to face Caroline without losing his temper or showing that he knew something. Jesus, Mark, I can't believe it. I wouldn't know what to do, Bob said, shaking his head. It was difficult, but I had to keep going. I had to wait for the big reveal. I continued. That happened this morning. The detective confirmed that she was having an affair, and he had proof. It was worse than I imagined. Christ, Mark, it can get worse. Bob asked, looking distressed. Maybe Bob told him, taking an overhandle out of my briefcase and passing it to him. He looked at me, illicitly took out the contents. Bob began to read the report, but he soon took out the photos. I saw the impact on his face. He turned pale and exhaled heavily. It can't be. This is a trick. He looked at me, begging me to be fake. I wish it was Bob, I said. I really wish it was. The photos clearly showed Caroline and Bob's wife, Karen, together. Bob was stunned. She looked like she might pass out, but somehow he managed to sit down and staring at the photos without expression. I took another sip of my drink, while Bob was quickly finishing reading, without taking her eyes off the photos. I was lost, as if I didn't know what to do. His breathing became shallow. I put my hand on his and took the pictures, putting them back in the envelope. Bob, let me tell you what's in the report, I started. He nodded slightly, still in shock. I explained to him that the audio recordings, they were as revealing as the photos. The report detailed how Caroline and Karen, they had used various objects. The detective found where they were hidden in our house, and he listed them all. For what it's worth, Bob, the recordings indicate that Caroline was the dominant, and Karen was following suit. It looked like Karen might have been pressured or seduced in a relationship and wasn't strong enough as to resist. I can't prove it, but after listening to the recordings and to meet Karen and Caroline, I think it's very likely. That doesn't make me feel any better, Mark. I'm really upset. I can't believe Karen would do something like that. He's not like her. There must be some reason, Bob said, looking for answers that only Karen could give. I think the A or B on your calendar refers to our houses. A could be my house, and B could be yours. But I'm not sure. You are right, Mark. Then Karen will be at your house. In about half an hour with Caroline. I've been thinking about this all morning. I've decided that I'm going to confront them. You can come with me or stay. This choice, and I will understand if you don't want to be there. We sat in silence. Bob was trying to decide what to do. Finally, he looked up. I think I should be there when it all happens. She could be very upset. I should take her home. It's okay, Bob. I understand. Your lies speak for themselves. To a gambler is to a gambler. Period. Mark, you can't forgive me, I beg. For the love of God, Caroline, you can't think of anything better to say. My disdain was evident. You've broken our wedding vows. Do you understand that? Yes. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to do that. I would never do it. He finally ran out of words. By the way, Caroline, how long has it been since this started? I really want to know how long she had been lying to me. And if he would tell me the truth. Not much. For a while. How much is that? I demanded. There was a long pause. Since last fall, he whispered. Oh my God. Last fall was more than 6 months ago. This was not a brief mistake. It was a complete adventure. And he was furious. Why do you hate me so much? Suddenly he asked. Why do you hate me so much? Suddenly he asked. I don't hate you, Caroline. I'm already beyond that. I felt sick, angry, and sad. I hardly feel anything for you now. You have destroyed me, Caroline. You have plunged a sword into my heart. I loved you with everything I had for 23 years. I never once dreamed of cheating on you. But you didn't feel the same. And now it's over. I had already said everything I needed to say about my feelings. No, please, Mark, don't do this. Please. I was desperate. I'm sorry, Caroline. The process has already begun. You will probably receive the divorce papers on Monday. The reason will be your infidelity. No, Mark. No. Please don't do this. What will you do, Annie? He was begging, but he didn't give any real reasons. What about the children? I was hoping you'd mention them. Our children are almost adults now. Catherine, Cat, was 20 years old and studying to be a teacher. He believed in making learning exciting. She could become a great teacher or stay in school earning degrees. And marry a teacher. Michael, her 18-year-old brother, was a freshman at the same university. He was serious about his business studies, but he was also popular on campus, enjoying his university life. They both lived on campus because we could afford it and they didn't want the long commute. I'll tell them I'm divorcing you because you cheated on me. I will tell them that there is no chance that we will get back together. If they ask, I'll tell them that your affair lasted for months. I won't tell them who you cheated on me with, but you know that they are close to their Uncle Bob and his Aunt Karen. I can't control what they might come to find out, so what you tell them is up to you. Carola was gently ignoring, her face buried in her hands. For a moment I felt bad and guilty, but then I remembered the last few hours and came back. To get cold. I'm sure our parents will call. I will tell them the same thing I will tell our children, the reasons, the timeline, planning, and that we're not getting back together. As for your parents, they'll probably want to know why I'm not giving you a second opportunity. If they press me and blame me instead of you, I will tell them everything. So I suggest you have a siesta with them first. Then explain the difficult problems that our divorce would cause. Think about the other effects, Caroline. We live in a small town. You are a well-known real estate agent and a member of the Chamber of Commerce. You are in contact with important people. The news of our divorce will spread and people will talk. When they don't get answers, the rumors will start. My brother Bob is on the committee for the presidency of the Chamber of Commerce, a position that you want. You've also decided to run for city council. A messy divorce and any hint of misconduct would ruin those dreams. Many people see us as the perfect couple. If we get divorced suddenly, they will ask questions. Given that I am a key employer in our community, I cannot afford to be questioned. My reputation. If anyone asks, I'll say it's because you were unfaithful. Caroline was struggling with my words. He had hit her with one consequence after another without giving her a break. It was time to stop for both of us. I needed to stay calm and cool-headed, even though I was angry and upset. I went to the liquor cabinet and poured myself another drink. Maria Caroline, and I asked her if she wanted anything. She shook her head without looking up. He had crushed her with the weight of the problems she was about to face. I stood on the edge of the kitchen, staring at her as I sipped my drink. "It's not the same, you know," he finally said in a muffled voice. "That it's not the same. To be with a woman. It was always better with you. I would have never cheated on you with a man. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, it's just the truth. It was always better with you. I love you, Mark. I always will. That won't change, no matter what happens. I guess I'll always love you too, Caroline, at least in the memories of before. Before this, I was sliding into sadness and despondency, something I tried so hard to avoid. Well, you tricked me. It sounded real to me. It sounded real to Bob, too. Maybe you think you forced or choked Karen into this. Is that what happened?" She looked at me for what seemed like a long minute, then lowered her head again and said nothing. "She must know if Karen says you coerced her. Bob could sue you for alienation of affection. That would be really problematic. Another blow to her already sinking spirit. One last thing, Caroline. I want my grandmother's engagement ring back. She gave it to me to give to you. It's a family heirloom. No, please know that also begged. Caroline, I've never hurt you or even yelled at you until today, but I swear if you don't give me that ring back, I'll take it from you." Watch as he slowly took off the ring and pushed it towards me across the table. "Thank you. What's going on now?" he asked weakly. "Good question. I suggest you go to work tomorrow and Sunday. You will need an income on your own. I've packed a bag, and I'll be living somewhere else for now. You should get yourself a lawyer to protect yourself. You'll need it. You can contact my lawyer through my office." I didn't tell her that I had already talked to my lawyer and that he would do everything possible to limit what she could get out of our marriage. We were living in a no-fault divorce state, and I needed to protect my assets. I was hoping that her income and the reason for our breakup will save me from having to make payments. But I wasn't optimistic. Sadly for Caroline, the house was in my man before our marriage, so he was not part of the division. I had also talked to my friend Frank Khalidi, who worked at the bank, agreed to help me move money from our shared accounts and cancel our credit cards with joint. Frank would also get my family heirlooms back, the insurance papers, jewelry, and other important documents in our safe deposit box. Would be ready to help me first thing in the morning, making sure that Caroline couldn't do anything first. I would change my will on Monday at my lawyer's office when we finalized the divorce paperwork. It's about time I left. I had already said everything I needed to say, and I was exhausted. This day would always remain in my mind as one of the worst of my life. "Is there anything you want to say before I leave?" I asked. She looked at me with a sad expression. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Finally, he lowered his head and whispered, "I love you, Mark. I'm sorry. I love you." And that was it. It didn't feel satisfying. I didn't feel like I had one. She was broken, and we both knew. Standing in the middle of the consequences, I thought of Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. 3 years later, the ripples of that terrible day have almost stopped, but the damage is still present. I don't think I'll ever get to know why Carola made me uncomfortable with her lies and deceit. Maybe she doesn't know either. I wondered if Karen ever told Bob how it all started. But I doubt it, and I don't think Bob would have been interested to know that while he was trying to rebuild his life. Bob worked hard to repair his relationship with Karen after that terrible day. They continued to live together, and Bob told me that they got close again soon after. But deep down, I knew things would never be even the same. The trust and unconditional love they once shared had been nested. Bob still loved Karen deeply, and she never stopped loving him. But the damage was already done. The dark shadow over their marriage never lifted, and less than a year later Bob filed for divorce, admitting that they couldn't fix what was broken. Karen knew they would never be able to get over it happened, so he left without arguing. He stayed with Carola Inn for a short time before moving back in with his parents. After that, he became almost invisible. Bob continued to send support checks to his parents' house, but sometimes they were charged a month late, and in the last 6 months they were not charged at all. When she called her mother, she was told that Karen had left and would not be coming back. They didn't know where I was. Bob felt a deep sadness for Karen. I knew she had been both a victim and a participant, but I couldn't live with the memories. I talked to Bob a few weeks ago. He mentioned that a major supermarket chain was interested in buying his 2 stores. One at each end of the city. The deal was lucrative. So much that I would never have to work again if I didn't want to. Was seriously considering selling, but didn't know what he would do with his time. The offer was too good to refuse. When I talked to him last week, he told me that he had signed the papers and that he was going to work at a garden center. Gardening was his passion, and keeping busy would help keep his mind off Karen and the past. Bob and I still meet occasionally for a drink or a meal. We're still close, but the past has left its scars. I hope we can fully restore the bond we once had. I love my brother, and I wanted him to find happiness with someone new. Our children are adults now and living their own lives. Catherine is teaching in a nearby city, and I see her about once a month. He managed to stay close to both his mother and me without taking sides. I don't know what Corolla told you about the divorce, but I have fulfilled our agreement. Kat has never asked me for details, both she and her brother. They were deeply saddened by the breakup of Uncle Bob and Aunt Karen. Catherine has a man in her life, but she's not ready to get married yet. Michael, however, is furious with his mother and refuses to see her or talk to her. I'm not sure how much you know about divorce, but you are aware of more than just the basics. Catherine has told me that her attitude towards women has changed drastically. He has become distrustful, and his behavior has not been good. He is finishing his final year in business administration and plans to move to the city after graduation. I don't see him as much as I would like, and I feel he feels uncomfortable around me. I hope you can get through this difficult period and find someone you can love and trust. Corolla insists in the city, struggling to keep her real estate business. As expected, the rumors spread quickly. Faced shame and social isolation. She was discarded for the position of the leadership in the Chamber of Commerce and rejected by her colleagues. She became lonely and, according to Catherine, is now a bitter and hardened woman. He moved out of our house immediately, and I rent a small apartment near his office. I recently heard she dated a couple of men, but ended those relationships quickly, given how much she has been talked about in the community. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually moved to start over. She is a skilled realtor, so she should be able to make a decent living, but only if you can escape the weight of local gossip. As for me, I live alone in my big house. My kids visit me occasionally. I haven't felt ready to find a new partner, but maybe that will change someday. I focus on my work and try to maintain good relationships with my employees. It's been hard because there are rumors circulating about me too, and there's nothing I can do to stop them. I never felt the need to explain the details of my marriages to everyone, but I could see the curiosity in people's eyes. I've been through all the emotions that someone in my position would experience. I questioned myself. I wondered if I could have handled things differently. If I had never told Bob and had only confronted Corolla and Impervit, things would have ended up better. I should have tried to save our marriage. But no matter what the images of that afternoon, the photographs will never leave me. They are engraved in my mind. I realized that it was useless to imagine other outcomes. I was furious when I found out how much Corolla would receive in our assets despite her betrayal. Now I have a bad opinion of no-fault divorce. It should be called a divorce without responsibility. But in the end, it didn't ruin me financially. I sent a little check every month to Corolla Inn, and she cashes it right away. The deal was based on his last 3 years of income, which were some of his best. The judge determined that he did not need much financial support from me. Your life has become much simpler. My sharp and skillful executive assistant, Isabel, has retired, and I miss her more than I expected. He was like an extra brain and heart to me. She was the only person I told the whole messy truth to. Even my lawyer didn't know all the details. His advice kept me in agreement. His friendship saved me during those first months. He knew me also as a twin would. His replacement, a capable middle-aged woman named Florence, is efficient at her job. But it's not the Isabel. I never knew who made the anonymous call. It could have been a curious neighbor or someone from Caroline's office. I'll probably never know. A larger company is considering buying my business. I'm torn between leaving the past behind and staying in the career that ever me. If I sell, the buyer could close my company and merge it with their operations, putting more than 150 employees out of work. I can't live with that. I have considered including a no Sierra clause in the sales contract. But even if the buyer accepted, they could find ways to circumvent it. I don't know what my future will look like. I know I am responsible for my own actions. Gather the evidence. I confronted the truth. Faced the consequences. Now I'm all alone, looking at the rubble. In the end, we all become victims of the damage. This is the end of my interesting and instructive story. Subscribe so that you don't miss any more similar stories that might save your life. And see you soon.